Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us as usual and being my great guest. So right now we'll be talking about free SHS. We're talking about the double track system that comes with it. I mean, it's been about 2 years of implementation of government's free SHS policy, and in fact, as you're well aware of, it has been one of the most touted, if you like, a key part of what government has been touting as its achievements so far. I have here in the studio the Deputy Education Minister, Dr. Yaw Adutwum. It's been a very long time since we saw you.
Yes, it has been.
And we'll be talking to him shortly. Do send your questions, your thoughts, everything that you want to know about this program, we'll ask him. But we all know, however, that even though we've been implementing this program for the past 2 years, it has had its own challenges, and Doc has been talking about it for a while. But we'll talk about that. We still know there are rough edges to be straightened, and we can talk about that subsequently. But even as we go on, let's listen to Yaw Osei Adutwum, who is the General Secretary for Opposition NDC, who is saying that the party, if they should win power in 2020, will scrap the double track system.
Have enough spaces, both classroom and sleeping accommodation places, for all the students who are entitled to take advantage of the free SHS. Because of this, the government has been forced to institute a shift system, which they call double track. And this shift system has brought untold hardship to both parents and students. And for which reason, a survey conducted by the University of Ghana singled out this shift system, double track system, as the worst form of policy that has been implemented since this government came to power. So, no responsible government will want to keep the shift system as part of this free SHS. And that is what we want to change.
That same reset, parents were in favor of free SHS, but they were unhappy with the double track.
Precisely. So that is why we are saying we will not cancel free SHS, but we will take what the parents hate from it to make it right.
So you will not run double track?
No.
So where would you put the excess students?
Why would we cancel double track from basic school only to introduce it at senior high? That's why we have told you that within 90 days, we will be able to keep free HSS and cancel the double track.
How? Because of the excess students, the number of students that
listen, we are having these challenges because of poor planning or no planning at all. Because you know, when they were talking about introducing free SHS, the easiest thing they could do was to look at the people who were going to enter free SHS. And this number is available with the junior high schools. You know those who are in the 3rd year in junior high school. So you know those who will be entering next year. So if you are planning to introduce something that will accommodate everybody in senior high school in this thing, you should know the numbers and know how to build accommodation for them. We took those numbers and we felt that we needed to increase the number of senior high schools in this country if we have to go full-scale free SHS. So that was why we introduced the policy of building 200 new senior high schools. And that was why we were able to award 123 of the 200. And as at the time, as at the end of 2016, we had actually built, completed, and commissioned about 50 of them. And then 73 also were at various stages of completion. And we left office. So the easiest thing the next MPP government could have done was to use the first 6 months or so, complete these structures, and then roll out the free SHS. Everybody will get a classroom. So there is no need to introduce multiple track and all those things that they. But when the problem with them is that they decided to abandon the policy of Professor Atame's, which was continued by President Mahama, that, look, it does nobody any good if you just abandon all projects begun by a previous government.
Some of the senior high schools that John Mahama started have been completed.
Tell me which one.
Well, I can cite one that the former president visited recently when he was in the north. A school which he said was overgrown with weeds. The Regional Education Directorate issued a statement and said they had in fact completed that. They were about to get the student. In fact, they show evidence that the school is now currently.
After the completion, they left it in the bush for the weeds to grow before they go to commission. Is that what you are telling me?
No, but that's...
We visited there and the thing had not been opened at all. So if they have subsequently gone to open it, it is something as an afterthought. But they abandoned all these projects. In fact, consensus people within MPP, including personalities like Adokofo, cautioned that, look, why don't you use this first year to complete all these projects, so when you open, everybody, you roll the thing out, everybody will get a seat. They ignored him and went ahead. So what type of mental processes went into developing that decision?
Johnson Osei Adutwum is the General Secretary of Opposition NDC there, talking about what they want to do, or how perhaps the NDC feels about the 3-year SHS policy, what's working, they think, and what's not working. Obviously, from what he said, what's not working is a double-track system. Like I indicated, I have the Deputy Education Minister here in the studio. We've asked you to share your questions for him, and then we will get right to it. Doc, thank you so much for coming once again.
You.
And I see that you've brought your big book,
yes,
writing down.
I'm taking notes.
Writing down all of the questions to get the answers. Now, let's start with what's happening at the ministry. Give us an update on what's happening and what's the latest at the ministry. Then we can
Ministry is great. Everything is going on well as planned.
Okay.
And there's a lot of excitement around there. We're in our 3rd year of free senior high school, which I call SHS 3.0. And it's to see over 1.2 million people going to school. And to also see the fact that around the world, we are the only country where students are going to boarding school for free. When you look at about 70%, 60 to 70% going to boarding school, and the government is fully paying for it. It also speaks to the fact that we have prioritized education to the extent that we believe that a child who doesn't live close to a school still deserves to be educated. So I just want Ghanaians to know that the vision of the president is being implemented, and it's not being implemented in haste, and it's also being implemented with the world-class standards and best practices. I heard the General Secretary...
I'll come to the issues that he raised. I'll come to the issues that he raised.
But the critical thing is that if I hear him talking about double track,
I will come to double track, Doc. I don't want us to jump the gun. I'll come to double track.
Okay.
You mentioned...
Just give me the markers and I'll do it.
Okay, don't worry. I'll give you the questions. So you just mentioned how the president's vision is being implemented and that it's not being done in haste. But there have been cost implications that we've still not been able to really wrap our minds around it. Wouldn't you say?
The cost implications?
Yes.
I love Ghana. You know why?
Tell me.
In other places around the world, when the government is implementing a program and the government is not complaining, nobody complains.
Well, the government is not complaining. The people who are complaining are feeling what's happening.
No, how are they feeling what is happening? What are you feeling? What you are feeling is the fact that you have vendors supplying food to schools. A lot of jobs have been created as a result. Now you have people who supply food across the country to the various, and they have jobs. What we are complaining is the fact that the poor now has an opportunity to go to school, and otherwise they would have been at home.
Not at all.
Yes.
Not at all.
So when you look at the sense of urgency that comes with the 21st century knowledge economy transformation process, if you don't put it within that context, and that is what I hope our discussion today brings about.
Hopefully.
In everything that we do, if you create, you know the sense of urgency, you know the context within which you are creating it, then you are allowing certain things to happen because you know why.
because you're looking at the end result.
End result.
Okay, so the point that I was trying to make is that there have been people calling for reviews, and they've said, and they made very cogent arguments and said that there are people who can pay, and this came up at the beginning, and we've spoken about this to you before, and you disagree, but I'm bringing it up again. We are at a point where people have said, we have seen people who can pay. We know people who can pay for their school, for their children to go to school. So why don't we, in order to sustain this policy, allow them to pay?
I know who watches your TV program a lot, the middle class, right?
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
But when it comes to my constituency, when you go to Bosomche, and you go to Bonkoko, go to Pianse, go to
They all watch JoyNews, trust me.
They watch JoyNews, but they are not going to tell you want to pay. No.
No, but exactly the point.
They are grateful to the government.
So hang on, Doc. The argument has been that let the people who can pay.
No, what is your means testing system? You see, when we talk about these things, we make it look as if it's so simple. Who can pay? Is this the cocoa farmer in my constituency with a large-scale cocoa plantation who doesn't file his taxes so that I don't even know how much he makes? Is that my uncle who has a large plantain farm?
You can do that at the school, can't you?
How can you do that at the school? Is that a Bosua kind person who makes a lot of money but don't file his tax? Is it the chief director whose income is known? Is that the teacher whose income is known? Is that the head teacher?
Those are questions for the ministry to answer in order to make this effective, isn't it?
The most important thing is this. You see, that is why I'm saying that we have to begin to look at why are we doing free senior high school. Once you know that, then all these things that you're talking about become peripheral issues.
Very well.
Your goal should be, why am I ensuring that every child gets educated?
Okay.
And once you know that, all these things can then be discussed. But my focus is, I want to make sure we know why we need free senior high school.
Okay, so you're not completely against...
talking about how to do and the logistics. I want Ghanaians, first of all, because when you hear people like General Mosquito, I hear that how he's called, talking about Esedin Ketia, Honorable Esedin Ketia, talking about scrap a double track.
We'll get there. At this point, I just want to take your wrap-up comments on
my whole thing is
on
this.
Making people who can pay for free SHS.
That is not me, where I'm coming from. What you have to focus on is, why is the government doing this?
So once we figure that out,
struggling?
Is it okay for us to now look for those who can pay?
I will not even talk about that, because you don't have any good means testing
Is the
program.
government not struggling to take care of free SHS?
Of course not.
Really?
I'm at the Ministry of Education. We've never had challenge with money coming from Ministry of Finance, and I really praise the Finance Minister for it. We've never been cash-strapped. There was never a time when the minister or anybody said, I'm not getting support from Ministry of Finance. No.
Okay, let's leave that at that, because there's a lot of things to talk about as far as SHS, the school system is concerned. So now let's get to the recent development. We saw people queue up at the Independence Square or the Black Star Square looking for placement. What has become of that?
I mean, now you don't see them queuing anymore, so obviously.
We saw them picketing at the ministry.
Yeah, obviously things have calmed down. In any program that you implement in the scale that has been implemented, there will be glitches, there will be challenges. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is when the people in charge of it has a fierce determination to ensure that the vision of the president comes through. And I think that is what you've seen with Ghana Education Service, taking their responsibilities seriously and making sure that the president's vision will be fulfilled. And I think that's the most important thing at this point. The most important thing is that they saw the challenges, they met it head on, and as I speak with you, our children are going to school, or they are in school. So that is the most exciting part of the story.
I hear you. Because, again, we have a lot of things to talk about. I won't focus too much on the, because I still have a lot of questions on the back of that.
Bring me back, and we can talk about
certainly.
issues.
Now let's get to the issues that John Stasedun Ketia raises. I mean, he talks about he says you are introducing, you've taken away, or the government of which he was a part took away the shift system from junior high school, and now you've reintroduced that into senior high school. He says it doesn't make sense that people should go through.
I don't know what committee this individual served on whilst he was in Parliament. Hopefully he was not in the Education Committee.
I'm not sure that he's been in Parliament, John Stasedun Ketia.
I thought, okay, just let that go.
He was in Parliament. He was in Parliament. Okay.
Yeah, but the bottom line is this. I always say this, that you don't have to be an expert in education, but when your government, your party is running for office, get some people to really advise you so that you will present yourself in a way that you are not trying to wing it and come out with things that are not true. There's so many things that he's saying. The shift system in the basic school, people went in the morning, others went in the afternoon. That was what was called the shift system. Yeah. So I don't know what he's talking about.
He's likening it to what you have introduced
now.
But
obviously in the senior high school, that's not how we are doing it. You see, in the shift system, kids, in fact, in terms of instruction hours, they were shortchanged. If you went to a regular school, you are out there almost the whole day, and some people are sharing the day. So it's different.
Isn't
altogether.
That what we're having here?
Of
because
course not.
They are sharing the teachers anyway.
No, they are not sharing the teachers. Okay. Every track has its own set of teachers. And the interesting thing is that unlike the shift system that he was alluding to, we have more instructional time per track. So they were not shortchanged in terms of instructional hours. So it's not the same thing to begin with. But I also want us to take a look at something very insightful. Nobody has ever said that the double track is the worst policy ever implemented. No. When you look at the Legon study, they misunderstood. It didn't say it was the worst policy. And also, let me show you something. There's this young man who came, a Ghanaian, did most of his work in America and came to Ghana and wanted to change the course of history of this nation by setting up universities. And he began the SHS University, Dr. Patrick Ewia. Yeah. Dr. Patrick Ewia said something very insightful. Of course, he said that maybe we did not communicate the double track well, but it's the most clever policy the government has, any government has ever implemented. Let me show you why he said that. You see, when you watch his, what he said, that if you look at what the Brookings Institution have just come out with, the Brookings Institution of USA have come out to say that for developing countries to catch up, the education system to catch up with that of the Western world, we need 120 years. This is Brookings, an eminent institution, 120 years. Now, they also said those who will catch up are the ones who will leapfrog. So when you talk about granting access to the vast majority of your students to go to senior high school, when you have limited spaces, you have to use a leapfrogging access strategy, which is to say that I have limited infrastructure. But if I wait, as the research was there at the ministry, that it was going to take 20 years for us to build all the infrastructure in order to implement free senior high school. So if the government of the day, under the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, says, okay, I'm not going to wait for 20 years. Can I get a policy which is time-tested, research-driven, which will allow me to give opportunity to all children to go to school? You know what that means? What it means is that if we waited 20 years, it means 2.8 children wouldn't have gone to high school within the next 20 years.
He talks about.
So it's a leapfrogging strategy which was used, and it's a clever strategy, and it's something that has been used in other jurisdictions, not just Ghana.
He talks about classroom blocks that were started by the Mahama administration, which the NPP administration has left to rot. Any update on those? Any update on those infrastructure?
It's very interesting. Let me tell you, Gifty, something about how education dealt with infrastructure development in Ghana. What we do is that we wait for Get Fund to get some money, and then we build, right? So we have uncompleted buildings across campuses in this country at the university, basic, senior high school level, uncompleted. Why? Because there was no budgetary allocation for those buildings at the time they were awarded contracts. So when you hear NDC talking about, oh, we started all these buildings, right? Out of the 200 that they wanted to do, they started 123 at various stages, and they ought to be commended for it. You want to build a school, I won't come and sit here and lambast you for building school. It's a great vision. However, only 23 out of the 123 had money allocated, which was from the World Bank. The rest was, let's go on it. When Get Fund gets some money, do as little as you can. By the way, based on that model, we're also paying contractors and paying them for fluctuations. Because every contract you award, if you are not able to pay them and they go at a slow pace and they use 10 years to complete instead of 1 year, you may pay 5 times the cost of the initial contract. So the bottom line is this. The NDC never had a strategy. All that they did was that, oh, when the money comes, just build on it. So when he talks about, I'm going to review in 90 days.
He said they will scrap it completely.
Scrap double track. You see, that is why I feel bad for him, because he has not been briefed well by an expert. You cannot scrap double track and have free senior high school.
Why not?
Because you will not have the space for the children. You come and you scrap it. Let me tell you, in 2016, the first year students that were there who we took over from were 302,000. We increased it 2 years down the line to 434,000. 134,000 more. So if you scrap it, where are you going to put 134,000? You scrap it. 134,000. You have capacity for 302,000. You're going to scrap it. You have 134,000 for 2 years. Where are you going to put them? So all that I think is that he may mean well, but doesn't understand.
Okay.
If he understands the nuances on it and have been appropriately briefed to know that, hey, you can do that. If you scrap it in 90 days, as he said. And the funny thing is when he talks about, we'll build all the buildings within 90 days.
He said that the building, the foundation is there. Some of them have already been started, so they'll finish.
Even the 23 that they had money for, they could only do 12, and we have struggled to do that. It's not easy doing construction in Ghana. It's not easy. I met with contractors. We go to sites. It's not easy. So when he talks about, if it was that easy, when they got the World Bank money of 156 million, at least they could have finished the 23 before they left, and they couldn't.
So are you saying that government is struggling to fund the remaining buildings, and that's why we've not completed?
Let me tell you, this is the first time the government has come up with a strategy, which is the Get Fund securitization. First time. Because the government felt that if we are going to wait and every year the revenue comes and we get a small piece of it and allocate it for construction, it's going to take us 10 years and all these buildings, including what they started, will not be done. Therefore, let's take 40% of the projected Get Fund revenue coming to us within the next 10 years, securitize it, that means borrow against the 40%, raise 1.5 billion, use that to complete all the uncompleted and abandoned buildings. And it has happened with 500 million that has been raised now. And you go to every double track school, that is the ones we are starting with. All uncompleted buildings have been tackled. The good news is that new buildings are under construction now. Some of them already done. Go to Fijai, go to Osei Adutwum, go to Kumasi High. All these schools, buildings are completed under the emergency double track, which is coming from the 500 million Get Fund securitization. So Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has come up with a strategy. He's saying that there's no way I can go anywhere in the world and borrow 1.5 billion, but I can raise it in Ghana. And he has raised it in Ghana. Parliament has approved it. And we are now building.
Okay.
So when he talks about 90 days, something you couldn't do in 8 years, you can do in 90 days.
Let's go on to the questions that our viewers are sending through. A lot of the questions, I must say. Don't be offended if I'm unable to read your questions because I'm overwhelmed with the questions already. So I'm going to try as much as possible to read those that came in, especially those that sent it very early. This one says, the double track system is not helping in any way. It has created confusion and burdened parents. Every semester, students pack their belongings home, renting home for young ones distance away from home. There is no competition too. Aggregates as high as 52 is admitted to pursue a very demanding course. Good policy, but more room for improvement. From Wisdom, Beje. So I'd like to take them three, as we do usually. Take three at a time, and then we get a response. Now, the way the questions, okay. I just want to try and follow those who brought them the questions in early. Good afternoon. The free SHS system is laudable, but the double track system is not helping us at all. Government should do well to abolish it within the shortest possible time. Amadou from Tamale. Amadou says, send that from Tamale. So that's the second one. This is from Ahunjo, from Charles. I think the free SHS is not well planned. NPP was in a hurry to implement the policy. Those are 3 questions, Doc. Do you want to speak to them?
I mean, it's clear that there's a difference between the implementation of programs which have great benefits to the country and getting people to understand it. I mean, some people will choose to understand, others will choose not to understand. So there's very little we can do about that. All that I'll do is we will continue to educate people to understand that if you look at the context within which double track was implemented, instead of waiting 20 years, if I can get 2.8 million more to go to school, I will deal with the challenges, but it will allow 2.8 million more children, in addition to the 300,000 who have gone every year. And that to me is worth, and as the president of SHS said, you may not have communicated very well in terms of getting people to understand. But it raises questions
of quality.
Yeah, not quality, not at all. Let me tell you what happened this year. Have you seen the test results of this past year, the WASI?
No.
For the first time within the last 10 years, students have 65% pass in mathematics because we created an intervention grant that enabled the final year students to stay in school, and then also during their last year they have more instructional hours.
That's quite different from the double track system.
No,
isn't
but it's a taste of it because you see, when we implemented double track and have the semester system, it brought about more instructional hours. And those students who were in Form 3 also had more instructional hours. So you cannot separate the two.
Okay, let's take some more questions here. The minister, Mr. Minister, the double track system is a brilliant reform, but please listen to the leadership of the teacher union. They are the cornerstone you are refusing. From Kebi Eche Kwesi in Jomoro. He doesn't ask a question, but he says the ministry seems to be ignoring some of the concerns that teachers have raised. Please ask Doc, when will the ministry begin issuing the appointment letters to teachers who sat for the exams and passed and wish to be employed? I passed my school exams, completed my NSS, passed my teacher's exam and still not employed.
But that has nothing to do with double track, right?
But you need teachers for the double track system.
No, this is not these are teachers for basic schools.
Okay, but you still get to answer that question. Okay, so let me take this last question on that. The double track system is not having any impact on the students, rather is doubling their grades from Godson. Godson sent that one. So
maybe Godson does not understand how the double track works. You don't double your grade because you're in a double track. You just have a semester system, just like a parent who said the kids are
No, I think he's being sarcastic. He's being sarcastic by saying that it's not really helping, but it's making our children's grades go up.
No, it's helping a lot if you get to understand that they have more instructional time than they would have had under the term system. Under the term system, the number of instructional hours were lower than the double track. So these are the nuances. The things that people don't know lead them to a conclusion that makes their conclusion false. Because if you understand that under double track, under semester system, students have more time with teachers, and teachers are doing a fantastic job, how do you conclude that the system that gave them more instructional time with teachers somehow did not give them quality time with teachers? I don't understand.
But if the results come and the results are not favorable, we know that it has not worked.
No, I mean, I'm not going to underestimate my teachers. The teachers of Ghana are one of the best in the world, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about they will not do well. The way they did well on this, when they have more instructional time and had more time in school and did very well on this WASI, did very well compared to the last 6 years, 10 years. I have confidence in the Ghanaian child that they will prove us wrong. They will prove the skeptics wrong, that they won't do it. They're going to do very well. Okay,
so we actually have messages asking us to play back a report that we played earlier. We'll play that report. But for now, let's take a few more of the questions. What Akufo-Addo / the NPP is doing, all in the name of free SHS, is like referring a terminally ill patient to doctors and nurses to heal him or her in a short period. I pity the professional teachers. The sad part is that the students are not ready to learn, and those professional teachers are forced to teach students with very bad grades who are not ready for SHS education. Simon sent that from Sandema.
You see, this is how we look down on the poor in this country. The poor children who never had time to go to school, now that they have a chance, we say that they can learn. I met a head teacher who told me the story of a student who came with a grade 41, and at the end of the second semester was the best student in the school. Poor children have had the short end of the stick for a long time. They've never had, sometimes, remote areas, good instruction. They don't do on the test, and then we blame them. We blame the victim that these are the poor ones. Don't allow them to come to Wesley Girls, because when they come there, they can't do well. This has been what we've done to the poor in this country for so long, and this government says, no way. We will bring intervention grants. If they come there and they are not up to speed, we're giving you money, provide them before school program classes, provide them after school, Saturday school if needed, give them vacation classes, let them compete with the rest of us, our children, because they too are children of Ghana. This is what we've been doing all the time. We just tell them, you can't do it because you didn't do on the exam. They didn't do on the exams because they didn't get all the prep that we provided our children. And then we blame the victims. We are not going to blame the poor people of this country. We are going to say to them, you can do it, we're going to help you.
Okay, great initiative. Please allow the parents to pay PTA dues. Are the parents not allowed to pay PTA dues?
They are not allowed to pay levies, but it doesn't mean they can't contribute. You see, there's a difference between levy and contribution. There are parents who walk into their schools and give 500 cedis, 200 cedis, and contribute to their schools to do well. There are so many of them who does that.
How do we regulate such a system?
Before this, though, what was going on is this. The PTA will meet. Maybe you are lucky to have about 20 out of 2,000 parents showing up. And then they will say every parent is going to pay 500 cedis. And the students who cannot pay, you send him home. So invariably, these are the children from the poorest of home, the ones who can pay. And they are the ones that we send home. And what GES is saying is this. We are not against contribution, but we are against levy. Because when Free Senior High School was implemented, there was something that was called development levy that parents were paying. Parents across the country, it was part of their school fees. It was 30 cedis a year, and it was called development levy, and every parent was required to pay. Now, the government said, we are picking up this. Every school is going to get this development levy paid for by the government. So what is the point again?
Free SHS has brought more harm than good to Ghanaians, so the government should find any other alternative to sort things out. Is there any other alternative to what we have at the moment?
No. If you want to change your country, if you want to transform the fortunes of your country, if you want to be like South Korea of a gross tertiary enrollment of 93.6, there's no other way but to help everybody to have secondary education so that your tertiary numbers, which at this point is 16.19% gross tertiary enrollment ratio, which is if you take the youth between the ages of 18 to 23, 16.19, let's say 17%, have some form of tertiary education. Countries that have developed, you have to hit 40 to 50%. Otherwise, you are not developing. So I want people to understand that Free Senior High School then moves you to tertiary, and that is how you transform the country. So this is not a joke. Do we want to develop? Or do we want to stay the same way for 60 years and allow other countries to pass us by? The vision of the president is that the development of the country is not negotiable. And therefore, we'll do everything possible to ensure that people have opportunity to go to school, improve the secondary enrollment numbers, improve the tertiary enrollment numbers, make the development of the country sustainable, and ensure that we don't revert to underdevelopment.
So there will be no alternative. I mean, we will keep implementing the program as it is in terms of,
this is what
double track.
What you have to do. When the president announced double track, I was with him in Tamale. It was an evening, Tamasco. And he said that double track will be last for 5 to 7 years. I was there. So when I heard the General Secretary of NDC talking about that we never had a plan, the president announced that Tamasco can go to the newsrooms, and whoever the news people who were there will show it to you that that is exactly what the president said.
So 5 to 7
years. And we're on track. If you look at close to 1,000 buildings under construction across the length and breadth of this school and various senior high school campuses, we are on track.
Okay, more questions here for you. Good afternoon, Gifty. In fact, we must praise the NPP government for this free SHS policy. If you want to know the essence of the policy, please let your news team visit the rural communities and find out for themselves. Indeed, it has eased the burden on education, most especially secondary education. The NDC aren't serious as an opposition party. Hi, I'm Isaiah from Boga, and I'd like to ask the Deputy Minister, what is happening with the postings of newly trained teachers who they said would have been employed in September. Now we are in October. Does the minister have his children in a double-track schools? Okay, so these are 2 or 3 questions. I mean, the first one was a comment, more like a commentary, compliments, if you like. So 2 questions. This one is asking whether you have your children in a double-track schools.
My
the
children
other one
are
is
not that grown up, but at the same time,
to go into double-track.
to go to senior high school for that matter.
Okay.
But that's not even the point.
The other one was asking about school, about teachers. That's the second question we've had so far about teachers.
No, I think they are talking about basic school teachers, and I know for a fact that they open up a portal for them. They've gone, now they're screening. As I left today, I consulted, and the Director General said, oh, there are a lot of applications. Everybody is telling us which district he wants to serve in, which town he wants to serve in. So they have to go through that and screen it and make sure they can place them. But they're on track. Our teachers who left for study leave, last week they were all placed. And the next thing is to place all teachers who went to colleges of education and have done their national service. Okay. So they're on track.
This one doesn't have a name. It says, I would like to know the percentages of day students and boarding students regarding the total number of free SHS students. Do we have that?
Yeah, so far in terms of last year, we were around 70-30, close to 70% boarding and 60 plus, close to 70 boarding, and the rest are day. So there are more boarders than day students.
There are more questions about teachers. They're talking about arrears. There are arrears, I think, arrears in their salaries that have not been paid. Please, can Doctor tell us the fate of students who did self-placements but had 9 in one of the core subjects?
They have to go back to school, restate the exam, and then come back next year. That is what the plan has been the last 2 years, that if you do not pass English or mathematics, you have to do a reset. The good news is that if you can afford, the government absorb the fees for you, and you go and reset. There are quite a few students who did the reset last year and came back with the rest of the class.
The free SHS is here to stay and necessary for the country. The double-track system is a strategic measure to deal with the huge numbers. The NDC is basically ignorant and desperate anytime they speak about the free SHS. What are they going to review? And you laugh. Abdul Razak from Tamale. So that's not a question. Please, I want to ask the minister the amount they spent on the boarding students per day, and also amount spent on a day student. Do you want me to add one more question to that?
Sure.
Okay. I attended secondary school in the 80s, and vacation was 3 months, from June ending to September ending. What is the NDC talking about? It's Nana who brought vacation to school. Give us a break. Okay, from Yaw Osei also. Well, hopefully, I mean, if we have some real parents with real examples, real questions, let's throw them at the minister, because you don't get him all the time, you know. So let's not do politics with it. Honorable, when will all newly recruited teachers, okay, for the double track, get staff ID and paid all their arrears? So let's deal with the amount spent on teachers, and then how teachers recruited. He said, I think these are teachers specifically recruited for the double track system.
Yeah, those ones I thought everyone has been paid, because I know for a fact that there were frantic efforts around the country. They even went to various regions to make sure that they can do the biometric
It looks like some have not.
Yeah, so those who have not been paid, contact Ghana Education Service, because I know a number of people have been paid. But of course, you may have challenges with a few who may not have been paid.
Okay. Someone also asked
they were talking about how much a student is fed. Is 5 cedis 20 pesos a day.
5 cedis 20 pesos a day for the day student.
For the boarder.
5 cedis 20 pesos, and for the
I
day
think
student.
The day student, I thought 1 cedi 80 pesos. Lunch.
1 cedi 80 pesos for lunch.
Yeah.
Isn't that too low?
Isn't that too low? I can do the calculation. Maybe you can divide, because the breakfast is somehow smaller, and then you take that out, and the rest you divide by 2 to get the lunch and the dinner. But I can forward it to you for your website.
Okay. Well, ask Honorable for me, what are they doing for Bosome SHS in the Bosome Frehon constituency? Because we have inadequate infrastructure, both classroom and dormitory. So
the last time I checked, I thought there was some building going there, but I'll check Bosome. They are my neighbors. Bosome Frehon is a neighbor of Bosomtri.
Okay. Please ask him why there are a lot of day students in the 2019-2020 placement from Citizen Lexus in Navrongo.
How does he know that? I'm surprised that he has that data, because the last time I checked it was 66% boarding and the rest were day, and it's not very different from what has been happening in the previous years. So maybe he's talking specifically about his school. Yeah, but other than that, the numbers look the same as last year's.
If you are saying free SHS, he goes on, he says, and the son of a minister who makes so much money. So the son of a minister, as in the minister who makes so much money, enjoys the same thing with that of a peasant farmer who struggles to meet his 3 square meals. Is that fair? The poor are being exploited, but they don't know.
But I don't understand the question.
He says that it's about making those who can pay. He says,
does he know something about the Northern Scholarship?
He's essentially comparing what
the person?
A minister's son.
No, but
the difference between a minister's son and a peasant farmer's son.
Why didn't he say the same thing when the Northern Scholarship was under implementation? Did he hear about any means testing with the Northern Scholarship? The child of a Bank of Ghana governor was getting the same, and I'm sure if you read about President Mohammed's book, he will talk about it. There was no means testing, and I don't understand why we are now clamoring for means testing in this country. That if you happen to be the son of a minister and somebody the son of a peasant farmer, somehow one deserves it, the other doesn't deserve it. I think the most important thing that we all have to understand is this. We are in the same boat together. There has to be a level playing field for all of us to create schools where the son of a minister and the son of a peasant meet. And to me, that's the most important thing. That instead of excluding the son of a peasant, what we are saying is that bring the son of the peasant on board and let him come and meet the son of the minister. Let them stay under the same roof and learn together, form friendships, and create an equal level playing field in the country. I would think that probably that's what he wanted to say and couldn't say it. But I'd rather have my son meet the son of a peasant and let them become friends, but not to get the peasant to stay at home.
Someone says that we should tell you to stop covering up the challenges of the so-called free SHS. They believe that you're doing some covering up here.
Covering up? What am I covering? It's transparent.
That you're covering up the challenges of free SHS.
Let me tell you, free SHS are open book. JoyNews have gone everywhere. All the newspapers have been everywhere. They've gone inside schools. So it's an open book. So I can't come here and cover. How do I cover up? Do I stop people from going to the schools to cover the things that are going on there? So that's not true. Okay. How can I cover up?
This is Nana Oche from Madan. Kandi, as the Deputy Minister, when exactly will the textbooks for the new curriculum be supplied to teachers? Supply to teachers at the basic schools. In fact, teachers in the basic schools are really suffering to teach in this new curriculum as a result of lack of textbooks, because children are finding it difficult to grasp the concept.
I know for a fact that it has been said, and I'll just repeat what has been said, and that there were exemplars that were sent out when teachers did the training. And those exemplars contain questions and sample questions that can be used in the classroom. What happens with implementation of most of this new curricula around the world is that there are many times the exemplars is what they begin with in the classrooms. And then as the books arrive, by the time it gets in there, it replaces the exemplars. But invariably, and around the world, based on what I've seen, most of the time, those materials go first. And maybe, I don't know, that what was given in the teacher's pack is not sufficient. And if that is the case, then I know we need to speed up. But if the number of questions that were given out in the teacher's pack, which was used for the training, is enough, that's what you use. I
think the question also has been that when is it coming? So when are the new textbooks coming?
I will not be able to tell you when. All that I know is that NACA goes through a process. As I speak with you, they are receiving books that they will have to then review and approve. And that is why they deem it fit to make sure that sample questions and others were given out to teachers as part of their training.
Okay, so we cannot have a specific timeline within which that will come?
No, it's with NACA. They have to review the books and say, okay, you have made, you passed, and this book is approved, And then that is when the government even have to look at what books do we buy.
Well, since you're talking about NACA, let's quickly talk about CSE. It's received a lot of resistance from Ghana. Where are we with that?
All that I can tell you is that the president of the land spoke. And when he spoke, he said under his watch, the CSE is not going to be implemented to the detriment of the Ghanaian culture and moral values. And I take it to the bank. As a deputy minister, when the president speaks, I follow. So that's all I know, and that's what I'm going to repeat.
So does it mean that it is going to be implemented, but in a different form from what you believe?
No, all that I know is that the president is focused on a comprehensive system of education with a focus on STEM. That is what the president is about. He don't want to be distracted with some CSE. What he's concerned about is, can my children have a comprehensive education system which has science, technology, engineering, and mathematics as the foundation, so that we can move our country into a competitive environment where knowledge economy can be leveraged through education to really transform ourselves. And that is what the president is concerned about. The
teachers are concerned as well. I mean, the parents are concerned. They've said that they believe that some of these, since it's because we're talking about NACA, that the curriculum, the curricula they're developing, the material they're developing, some of which contain this CSE, and they're not really happy about it.
No materials have been developed, as you say. No books have been done. So the bottom line for me, though, is this. When the president speaks, it's like law unto men. And in my case, we run and we do what he wants. And I think that's the most important thing.
See, someone says to ask you whether your schools in the U.S. are free or fee-paid. Basits from Tamale sends that.
No, it's a public-private partnership kind of model where charter schools are publicly funded but privately founded and run. So in terms of funds, for every child who comes there, the government pays. But it was funded by me and is run by a team that I put together. But the government pays for every kid to go there.
The free SHS policy is the best thing that has ever happened to Ghana. I'm a teacher in one of the SHS, and I know the policy has helped students and parents. I'll encourage the minister to do more to overcome the problems associated with the policy. Asin Manso, Davis sent that from Asin Manso. I'll have you look at the story that we did earlier, and then we can talk about that. But before that, just a quick one. I would like to know from the minister how they are promoting the French language in the senior high school, since we know Ghana is now a member of La Francophone. Also in the Francophone countries, English is compulsory subject from JHS to university. Can there be something of that sort here in Ghana?
Answer?
Yeah.
I love French. Even though I did French at the O levels, I didn't become fluent in it. Okay. But the interesting thing is we've started an initiative called Bilingual Schools. We started with 5 of them in Accra last year, and now we're moving to about 20 schools. I'll go and we begin from primary 1 all the way up. And in primary 1 to 2, students are taught in certain subjects through French, like PE, so that they can begin to understand JAMP and, and all those things. So Ministry of Health Business School is one of those bilingual schools. Okay. And the French embassy has supported us, and we will need support to open up more across the country. Our goal is to make sure that right from primary 1 you are immersed in the French language. By the time you get to primary 6, you speak both English and French fluently. And
you're not struggling with bonjour, as I do.
Not like we do.
Dr. Yaw Osei is one gentleman I admire a lot. I think free SHS is a good policy, but government must find a way to deal with the double track system. Before we go to that story, though, when those who are on the Go Track, I think I'm mixing it up, but when are those who are home at the moment? Okay, so Go Track, when are they going back to school?
I think Go Track, November 12th.
November 12th?
Yes.
But because...
And then they will go 4 months non-stop. And that's why I love Go Track. People don't know. When we started, most parents were saying, no, I don't like my children in Go Track. I'd rather have them in green. But Go Track is where you go every semester 4 months, and then you come home and do another 4 months, and you come home. So it's 2 semesters straight. you don't have the breaks that green track normally brings about. So go track, go 4 months non-stop.
Yeah, because I mean, my sister is at home, and she knew. She told me earlier on that she was going to go back to school in November. But we were told that recently there was a statement that was asking the students to come in as if there had been a change in the date.
No, I think GES should streamline these processes very well, because sometimes the anticipated benefit, people may not see that because of confusion with communication. And I think it's important that their calendar should be solid. And I think they clarified it recently.
Okay.
And I think we need to make sure that we don't have those things that confuse
that creates
people.
Confusion.
And
yeah.
then in the midst of those, then they begin to say double track is bad, but they forget that we give them more instructional time. So yes, there has been communication issues, but it doesn't take away from the fundamental benefit of being able to educate the vast majority of the children of this country before 5 years come for us to do all the buildings.
Okay.
So instead of waiting 5 years, we are building schools. Now the children will be able to take away double track. Everybody will be happy. But the people of this country have been very patient with us, and I urge them to be patient with us, because some of us know what we are doing.
I'll come for your final words. These sound like final words. I'll come for them. But let me tell you this story, and I'm sure you've seen it if you've been watching since morning. Some lie on their bellies, others sit on the bare floor, and sometimes in flooded classroom to read and write. Now, those are just few of the struggles pupils of the St. Francis of Assisi Basic School have to endure daily in a bid to access education in Aguna, Ahanta, the capital of the Ahanta West Municipality of the Western Region. Here is a report filed by Henry Kwesibedu.
It is 11 a.m. at the St. Francis of Assisi Basic School in the Ahanta West Municipality of the Western Region. For 10 years, structures raised to serve as permanent classrooms have part of their roofs damaged, resulting in severe leakage anytime it rains. In class 3, pupils are on the bare floor. Sometimes, when they are tired of sitting, they lie on the floor. There are just a few desks in the school. As if this is not enough, the heavens suddenly opened. The rains mean these children cannot study again. This is because the classrooms and sheds here will not withstand its ravaging force. Pupils and teachers look on very worried and helpless. They move the few desks, gather at the corner in the next classroom, waiting for the rain to subside. It's been raining for an hour, and classrooms here are flooded. Dozie Joel is a class 5 pupil here.
Last week, when the rain rains, we don't have chance to learn. So the teacher always let us to stop learning and take our brooms to sweep the water, and the water will go out. Some of them too, they will bring the board, and the board too will be white. So we want government to help us to build another school for us, and we will not be struggling how we are struggling with this one.
Gladys Ajiman Boatin is a JHS 3 pupil, and she's clearly worried.
Last week, because it is raining, we did not get time to learn. And this week too, we are trying to cover the subjects, the topics we must learn for some subjects. But this week still it is raining, so we don't get time to learn. And even today it's rain, so we didn't get time to learn. We are afraid every day because when it rains, other schools are learning to approach with the BC, but we here, we don't learn, we don't get that time to learn. So we are very afraid that maybe if we go to the BC, maybe we'll perform well, but the grade and the mark that we want to achieve it, we can't achieve it.
Teachers say the only motivation keeping them at the school is their passion for the job. Eric Kwesiando Jr. is a teacher.
So when it rains, classes stop. And I thank God when you came, you saw it yourself. So as a teacher, and I have my will to go and transfer. And so I've told the headmaster, my colleagues are here in Aguna Nkwanta enjoying better facilities. And if I am also in the same vicinity and I'm in this data, my brother, what is preventing me from going on transfer? Okay. For me, it's not easy. It's not easy. Just that we have the passion for the work. That's why we are here. But it's not easy.
According to Headmaster Nana Awotwe, several appeals over the years to relevant authorities to remedy the situation have not yielded any positive results.
Every year we have what is called EMIS, School Annual Census, and we are supposed to list all items in the school, books, teachers, number of children, desk, tables, classrooms, and in all this, for the past almost 8 years, this document will show that I state that the school is grappling with a classroom. We need classrooms because most of the classrooms are temporarily made. And we also tried writing letters around to help support. This one is from GASEM. We wrote to GASEM Foundation for even support. We couldn't. And we took some pictures. You can also see the pictures here. Yeah, so these are what we have tried, the few that we have done to seek help, but all proved futile.
How long can these pupils continue to endure the pain and distress of sitting in flooded classrooms? The pupils of St. Francis of Assisi Basic School may just be racing against time. Henry Kwesi Bedu's report for JoyNews.
We've already run out of time, and that is certainly not a situation you want your children to study in. Doc, over to you.
Thank you for your great work that exposes things like this to us all the time. I've seen some of the exposés that you've done in this area, and of course I'm not happy that children should sit and study under these conditions. And of course I've taken that the name of the town, the district, and action will be taken. It's not a situation that should be seen anywhere in this country, and to have children sit in the rain, and God knows what will happen when there's a major storm and what will happen to the roof. So I'm heartbroken, and I tell you, government has made some great strides in terms of schools like this. I've seen schools like this that have been rehabilitated or just pulled down completely, and new ones have been built through the Get Fund program. So I'm going to bring Get Fund's attention to this, and I'll personally pick it up from here and continue your work and make sure the results will be something that will make all of us happy.
Great.
I think you ended to end, you wanted to bring this to end this on a somber note.
Well, if like you say, you bring the Get Fund's attention to this and have them work on it, then that will certainly be a great story. And for those kids that you see there, they'll be eternally grateful. Even though the government owes it to them as a responsibility, but they will still be grateful that they had this problem shown on national television, and they've had it solved once it was seen by a member of the government. And so that would be a great thing. I'd like to take your final words on what we have discussed so far as we wrap up, though.
What I want my fellow Ghanaians to understand is that the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo wants to create an equal opportunity for all, wants to make sure that children, as somebody rightly said, from peasant, farmers' children, and everyone will have opportunity for education, and not only education but quality education. Free Senior High School was certainly not an afterthought. The president had thought through it for many years and understood that the countries that had done better and had over the years progressed and transformed themselves, their economies and their societies, were the ones that provided free senior high school to their populations. And that is exactly what we're doing in Ghana at this point. And we are going to, of course, fix all the problems that come along with it. Double track, the president pledged 5 to 7 years, and we're on track based on the construction that is going on. We just want Ghanaians to know that this government will not do anything that will harm the children of Ghana, will not do anything that will lower the quality of the education that we have in this nation. If anything, everything we do will be to enhance what we inherited and to ensure that this country transform itself through quality, through and relevant education, so that we really can live through to the meaning of our country's credo, freedom and justice. We want people to be free. We want a just nation where everybody is treated fairly and equally.
It's all about fair opportunities, he says. Do you agree? Do you not agree? If I wasn't able to read your message, don't be offended. Keep them coming. Keep your thoughts coming. We'll see some of these things and it will inform our programming. Doc, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Dr. Yaw Osei Adutwum is a Deputy Education Minister, and I must say a friend of this show. Every time he comes in and he takes your questions and he gives you answers. So we're grateful for that.